These scarecrows in the lower Saxony county of Luckau-Dannenberg are no ordinary scarecrows. They are protest symbols against storing nuclear waste. The yellow X is the symbol of the protest movement. Gerhard Hauder makes scarecrows. It's quiet around here, too quiet for Gerhard's liking. But that will change in a few days. There'll be 10,000 protesters. Gerhard is a key organizer, the head of a group called Citizens Initiative. He's dead against a planned disposal site here for high-level radioactive waste. The protest movement managed to stop the project temporarily. A moratorium was imposed. But now, to Gerhard's horror, there's pressure to reactivate the research deep underground in what's called the Salt Dome.
There's always the threat of salt absorbing water. Now some say, but €1.5 billion has already been spent for the digging here. But the counter-argument is this should have been just a fact-finding mine. Unfortunately, the mine's enlargement created the fact of its existence. Some people now are saying we don't have money left to look for a safe solution somewhere else. That's a joke. That supposes that politicians, such as Chancellor Merkel, prefer to hand out money to Lehman Brothers and so on, instead of investing in research to find a safe final disposal place for radioactive waste.
Ahead of general elections next year in Germany, the anti-nuclear community is bracing for battle. The country's conservative political forces, the strongest in opinion polls, want to relaunch nuclear energy. The nuclear waste protests, scheduled to take place here in the symbolic village of Gorleben this 8th of November, are just a prelude to the upcoming election campaigning. In the year 2000, Germany decided to phase out nuclear energy. 2 plants have already been shut down, 17 are still working. The last switch-off is penciled in for 2021, though the companies earning revenue from the plants are lobbying hard for delays. Their trump card is climate-friendly. If the electricity now nuclear-produced came from burning coal, the carbon dioxide byproduct would be 150 million tons for a single year. Nuclear is nearly CO2-free, they say, but there's always the radioactive waste to deal with. Till 2005, Germany's spent nuclear fuel was sent to France and the UK, where it was recycled. Now the still active waste has to be taken back. From La Hague to Gorleben, that's scheduled yearly till 2011, from Sellafield 2014 to 2017. Conservative politicians want an international group to study if the Salt Dome's a suitable permanent final resting place for the waste. Christian Democrat Karen Bertoldes-Sandrock lives in the neighborhood.
I think it's absolutely necessary to lift this moratorium. We must go on with research without restrictions as soon as possible. Let's have a look at the data gathered in the decade the moratorium's been in place. To this day, there hasn't been a single scientific geological research study saying Gorleben isn't right.
Joachim Kutowski is senior geologist with the final waste disposal company DBE, in charge of maintaining the Salt Dome tunnels. He's only taking us down about 800 meters. The salt descends 3 kilometers. The horizontal and sloping tunnels run for 8 kilometers. The dense salt rock absorbs heat well. That's important when storing the highly radioactive waste. Clay, under much research in France, is a less effective heat absorber, but salt is water-soluble. That's a clear disadvantage.
For hot radioactive waste, we have to find big areas of salt rock without any faults in them. No clay or anhydrites, calcium layers. Salt moves, that means any cavities dug into it will close up again with the movement of the salt itself.
German Environment Ministry security criteria say the waste must have no contact with the biosphere for 1 million years. Whether the stuff should be sealed away forever or accessible is under discussion.
Should I close the waste in so that future generations will not have to bear the burden? Or should I hope that treatment techniques will be developed by future generations? The second option is very unsecure. We cannot predict if future generations will be able to retrieve and to treat this waste.
So, the salt moves. Every 8 weeks, teams check the tunnel roofs for loose salt. It's routine. The maintenance costs 21 million euros per year. The quality of the water in the surrounding ground is also checked systematically. But since the political moratorium was imposed, there's been no active research or digging. Gorleben staff on site used to number 500. Now there are just 70 employees left. That put a dent in the local economy. The water checkpoints are welded shut every time. It's to prevent anti-nuclear saboteurs from pouring in salt or cement as they have in the past. Cross a small forest and you find a temporary storage site where waste containers must stand for a few decades to cool off. A security analysis on the salt dome's suitability is not expected to be commissioned until after the upcoming elections. This region has seen strong clashes between the police and protesters since the 1980s. This year again, at a cost of 25 million euros, 15,000 policemen have been assigned to keep protesters off the sensitive sites, off the streets and off the rails. The waste containers come by train. The police keep away men like Martin Donat. He's an elected county official and an activist with Group X.
Would you trust an airbag that's been tested just on Playmobil figures? I don't believe so. And that's exactly the problem with these transport containers. Just small-scale transport container models were used for crash tests. This is unsatisfactory for people's safety.
Donat is friends with a leading figure in the protest movement, Kurt Herzog. He's a politician of the left. His house is next to the railway, where the waste containers roll in. He accuses the nuclear lobby of misleading everyone using the CO2 argument.
Nuclear energy provides such a tiny part of consumption needs that not even 1,000 new nuclear power plants would save the climate. Nuclear energy brings death. Even in everyday use, it makes people ill and is responsible for many deaths. And it holds back development of a decentralized, democratic system of energy production and consumption.
The upcoming confrontation of Gorleben will give a foretaste of further election campaign activity. One side supports continuing the phase-out of nuclear power in Germany, the other relaunching it. A recent opinion poll shows that if the problem of where to put the spent fuel was solved, 60% of Germans would be in favour of nuclear energy. Compared with just a few years ago, that is a major change.